Guys, tables turned because the Russian saboteurs, they decided to invade Belgorod in revenge for Russian attacks against Kharkiv. Besides that, it looks like that the Z army, or maybe even Putin specifically, is at least considering an option that Crimea might be lost, and then Wagner prisoners and all the other private military company employees are no longer forgiven by Putin. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude! And yes, according to the most popular request of the last several videos, I finally got a haircut. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian. So today, but okay. So today we have news from the Russian newspapers, which says that those people who spent way too much time in the restroom during work hours are actually sabotaging their employers. And I mean, the news itself, it's like passive-aggressive, but nothing extraordinary until you start reading more, which says that these small tricksters, these small things that employees do constantly on a recurring basis, they eventually might turn into a criminal offense. And then those tough prisoners, the breakers of the people's order, the breakers of the people's regular lives, they might face severe consequences, such as potentially even going to jail or even sent to the front line. So imagine, you're like sitting in the restroom at your work, scrolling through Instagram, watching some YouTube videos, and then like military summon people knock on your door, and they're like, "What are you doing here, Sergei Ivanov? I think it is time for you to stand up. You are expected in Ukraine." And then you say, "But Mr. Comrade Major, I cannot stand up, my legs, I've been sitting for so long, I do not feel my legs anymore, just give me 5 minutes, like, I just simply cannot walk." And they're like, "Too bad, comrade, you will not need legs sitting in trenches." Sad but true, well, that is how it is. And by the way, guys, let me know down below in the comments if you ever sabotaged your employer by spending too much time in the restroom. And don't worry, I'm not gonna tell your boss. We are here in the Russian Youth Army, all for one and one for all. And by the way, if you want to be a part of our movement of the Russian Youth Army and help us spread the word that not every single Russian supports unconditionally Putin in this war, just feel free to subscribe to my channel, and that's it. It is that easy to become a part of this great community. And so recently also, according to my statistics, YouTube stopped promoting my videos to greater, wider audiences, so right now I need your guys' support more than ever. And also, do not forget that you can get this iconic The Russian Dude hoodie with so soft fleece inside and real stitching of the logo, so good quality hoodie, I love it. You can get it on our website, therussiandude.com, and this hoodie right now goes at 15% off. The link is down below. And so yes, now let's really quickly, in only like a couple of minutes, talk about the situation in the south of Ukraine, where it looks like that Russians are preparing just in case to lose Crimean Peninsula. And then we're gonna go to the east, talk about saboteurs in Belgorod and why Wagner might no longer be pardoned or forgiven at all. And so yes, first of all, as we go closer to Kherson region, Ukrainians reportedly were able to destroy an assault group of Russians and their tank in Novomayachka, located right here. Next we have a video from Robotyne, where Russians reportedly several days ago were able to breach, quote-unquote, the defenses of Ukrainians, but Ukrainians later released us this video, which happened on the night of February 23rd, which shows several Ukrainian FPV drones destroying this assault group of Russians along with their military vehicles, causing them to retreat, which basically means that this breach by Russians was only temporarily. But without a doubt, the most significant event of the last several days, which looks like is not widely reported online, at least for now, and definitely not in the Russian propagandistic channels, is that Russians started building a new railway, which will be connecting the south of Ukraine with Russia, avoiding Crimean Peninsula. The proposed alleged map of this railway you can see right now on your screen, and then here is the video of these rail tracks being actually built. Which is quite interesting thing if you think about it. Because I mean, Putin, I think we can all agree, it is going to be his last thing that he will surrender the Crimean Peninsula. He will defend it at all costs. At this point, it is pretty much a 95% certainty. But yet is the fact. The rail tracks are being built and they are not being connected to Crimean Peninsula. So, in minds of the Russian army and also in the mind of Putin, there is a possibility for this scenario where Ukrainians might be able to liberate Crimean Peninsula or at least endanger it for Russians so much that it will no longer be a viable part of the warfare territory. And honestly, there are several talks within the Ukrainian authorities and military leadership that the Crimean bridge will fall this year, 2024. And guys, if you want, also let me know down below in the comments. We can expand this topic and talk about this a little bit more in one of my future videos. But for now, just a couple of last words from the south of Ukraine before we go to the east, which is basically the response of Russians to the most recent small success of Ukrainians. First of all, as you can see from this video in Dnipro, residential area has been a part of a Russian attack. Then we have a video also from Sumy region where even more residential buildings have been damaged as a result of Russian attacks. And then finally is the picture or a video picture from Kharkiv region where a local grain storage has been destroyed by Russians. You already know about so big grain supply that Ukraine is facing right now, dealing with this with some of European countries. So basically Russians destroying even more of precious resource of Ukrainian grain makes the situation to be even more complicated. But luckily, just overall in the last 24 hours, Ukrainian air defense was able to intercept 9 out of 14 Shahid drones and all 3 out of 3 Russian Ha-59 metallic cylinders. Right, now just guys, a couple of last words from the east of Ukraine before I can talk about Russian saboteurs threatening Belgorod. And first of all, our stop brings us to Sinkivka, located to the northeast of Kupiansk, right here, where Ukrainians were able to destroy a large assault group of Russians next to this settlement. Then right here is the video from the forests to the south of Crimea, where once again Ukrainian elite soldiers from Azov brigade are pretty much pushing Russians further away, not letting them advance and showing them everything possible that guys, you are not gonna breach our defenses, so do not even try. All these activities by Azov Brigade were summarized in this absolutely incredible short compilation video, if you wanna call it like this, where as always the full version of it you can see on my Patreon, link is down below. Next we have something similar, a video from Belohirivka, located right here, where a Russian infantry fighting vehicle along with the infantry has been ambushed by Ukrainians, and then as you can see from this also compilation photo, a total of 10 armored vehicles of various kinds of Russians have been destroyed in this area only in the last couple of days. And then as you go even more to the south in Ivanovsky in Bakhmut area, something similar happened as well. According to this compilation photo, a total of 7 Russian armored vehicles were destroyed by Ukrainians. And also speaking in general about Bakhmut area, it looks like that according to Ukrainians fighting in this front line, Russians try to start to advancing again, specifically to the northwest of this settlement, specifically in the direction of Chasev Yar, where Ukrainians right now are doing their best to prepare and build as many fortifications as possible. Then next stop brings us to Avdiivka, where unfortunately it has fallen to the hands of Russians last week, but Ukrainians continue to show great resistance to advancing the army. For example, in this video, Ukrainian artillery was able to destroy yet another ultra-rare and extremely expensive heavy flamethrower of Russians called Solntsepek. And even though Russians claim that they liberated, quote-unquote, Avdiivka, this another video from the city proves otherwise. Once again, there is not a single standing building left. The city is completely torn into rubble and it will need to be rebuilt from scratch. Honestly, it does not look like, personally at least to me, that Russians will spend money or even I would say in their case, waste money on Avdiivka, their whole idea was to capture it specifically before the elections of Putin. I mean, the elections in Russia. Well, it's the Freud mistake, you get the idea. So I don't think they would care any more about doing anything else except just invading and capturing it. And you might have also heard that after Avdiivka, Russians did not stop, they continued advancing, and their next settlement of interest was Lastachkine. And well, as you can see from this map, it shows us the change in territorial control. Russians were able to relatively successfully advance to the west of Avdiivka, and indeed they did capture Lastachkine. Ukrainians had to retreat, and this information is already confirmed by Ukrainian military. And there is also this picture of a Russian flag installed in Lastachkine, and reportedly right now the next settlement of attention of Russians is Orlivka. Ukrainians are preparing and also building fortifications, but at this very moment this is the main point of interest for Russian further attacks. And this is the situation in the east, where Ukrainians are doing their best to protect against advancing Russians, because let's be honest, I don't think it's no longer a secret. This is the stage of a Russian offensive, and Ukrainians need to do everything to protect themselves, including potentially some distractions which might happen somewhere else. And luckily, something similar is about to happen. Specifically, what I'm talking about are the Russian, let's call them saboteurs, even though they are not, but it's just gonna be easier to understand. But you probably guys heard about this Freedom of Russia Legion. These are the Russians who are fighting against Russians, who are opposing the regime of Putin, who are against this war in Ukraine. And so recently they released this video that for these attacks that Russians did against Kharkiv, there will be a response. Specifically, they targeted the city of Belgorod, and the Freedom of Russia Legion representatives, they mentioned that their combat unit, the Legion itself, had relative success in the last several months. There was so many applications of new members, and right now the number of people inside this Legion is way above their own expectations. And that is why right now they do have the capacity and capabilities to perform their own military tasks, such as, for example, like I mentioned previously, threatening Belgorod. And in case Russians continue to shell Kharkiv, which was the main reason for threatening Belgorod for the Freedom of Russia Legion, they will be most likely able to do it. This will cause a significant distraction for the Russian forces. They might need to rotate some units back and forth, bring back and forth some military equipment and armored vehicles. And this might be a very good opportunity for Ukrainians themselves to launch counteroffensive, at least right now in the east, maybe in the south as well. And by the way, as a part of the Russian Dude merch, we also have these very nice white t-shirts with the Freedom of Russia Legion logo in the back. As you can see right here, this is the territory of Russia colored in the Freedom of Russia Legion flag. So this is also a very good opportunity for you guys to support the cause of Russians fighting against the regime of Putin and showing the rest of the world that we are not what the Western potentially portrays us as a nation. We are different, we can think different, we are all not the same. The link to our merch store is once again down below, or you can support the cause by simply joining our Patreon, where you will receive early access to the Russian Dude episodes, which will be fully uncensored with no advertisements at all, and also hundreds of uncensored photos and videos every single week. The link to Patreon is also down below. But wait, there is more. You already know about the Freedom of Russia Legion, you already know about the Russian Volunteer Corps, but looks like that recently another anti-Putin Russian forces started to appear, such as, for example, the Siberian Battalion, which you can see right now, picture on your screens. And what is very surprising is that they are equipped with the foreign CZ-806 brand 2 rifles, which are not Russian-made, which are not even Ukrainian-made, which basically means that they are supported, looks like secretly, by the West. So as you can see, Putin is slowly but surely, he does lose the support from at least some small parts of the Russian nation. But besides this, he also did potentially something what can what can be turned against him in the near future. So you know that a lot of right now Russian soldiers are, let's call them, volunteers, and a lot of these volunteers are the prisoners, and the reason they go to Ukraine, it is because they are promised to be pardoned. So basically you are in jail right now, you want to be free, and then there is an opportunity to go to Ukraine with the probability of survival which is not that big. But if you do, you return back home, you are no longer in prison, you are considered the hero of Russia, and pretty much your life is settled, your life is good. And well, what Putin decided to do is that he is no longer going to pardon those prisoners fighting in Ukraine, which includes ex-Wagner soldiers, any other private military companies, or pretty much anyone. And so, what do we have as a result? What I mean by that tables might turn against Putin in the near future. Prisoners are no longer pardoned. Volunteers are pretty much the only ones who go to Ukraine at this point, are also not that interested to go to Ukraine anymore. The probabilities of mobilization in the near future are also not that high, because the support for war, it's pretty much neutral, people don't care, and most certainly they do not want to go to this war. So mobilization is also not an option, because there is a so-called elections in March. So obviously he's not gonna ruin his reputation right now or in the near several months after the elections. So long story short, you already kinda can see the idea. There is not gonna be an influx of the Russian soldiers in next several months, and knowing the favorite strategy of the Russian military, which is sending mid-waves after waves after waves. The question is, where are they going to get people from? And guys, you know that every single war is cyclical, and right now is the Russian offensive, but eventually it will be the time for Ukrainians to attack. So, do you think this can be a trigger for Ukrainian counteroffensive? Please let us all know down below in the comments. And by the way, if you did miss our previous video, which was very interesting by guys, go ahead and see it, it's gonna appear to the left side of me. Please subscribe to my channel for all the future updates when hopefully Ukrainian counteroffensive begins. I will be doing an extensive coverage it, obviously every single day. Please follow me on Instagram, follow me on Patreon, go ahead and check some merch, and see you tomorrow.